Yay, here we are. Okay.
Hello and happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to day 4 of Reset Lab. And we're going to talk about when shit gets in the way. And we're going to talk about some of the stuff we can't control, such as like Teresa deciding that she's going to be sideways today. Okay, that's good. That's interesting. And hello, people watching the recording. I know I got a lot of messages. People have meetings today. I appreciate that you're watching this. So I just want to talk for a second about why I made Kickstartology and I decided to create my own program. And that's because when I was looking around the coaching space, I couldn't find anything that felt like a fit. Everything felt a little like too corporate or too artsy or too focused on goals or too much emphasis on habits or too much everybody seemed like one kind of person. And really a big part of my coaching philosophy is that we're all ridiculous in our own special ways. And we have so much in common, even though we're all quirky and weird in our own way. And I really wanted women to be able to see that because so many of you are jerks to yourself and you seem to think, do you know how many women have said to me, no, if you knew how bad I was, like you'd be shocked. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be. And I'm never shocked. And so many women are out there going, no, but like, you don't understand my situation. It's really weird because it doesn't fit into anywhere. And like, that's the point. Like none of us fit perfectly anywhere. Most people feel like, well, I'm a bit of an outsider because of this, because of that. Even the people that you think, oh, those people who belong, who adult the way that it looks like adult people adult. I'm not like those people. I'm not those people who take the obvious career path or the ones who, wear shiny pantsuits every day perfectly. And, I've coached all those people too. The people who do look like they have all their shit so perfectly together and they fit in perfectly. And that must be easy because at least I'd be able to figure out their problems if I had them. And all this to say that the more I coach different people, the more I stand by my philosophy that we're all ridiculous in our own special ways. And there isn't some standard that we're all trying to get to or some normal that makes it easier for some people. Okay, so that's why I created Kickstartology though, because we're all different. And more importantly than that, as things moved on, we don't know what we don't know yet. And a lot of the time as we do this, we're uncovering things about ourselves. And we might need to pivot a little or decide to pivot a little in what we're going to focus on or how we're going to approach it. And sometimes it takes applying this work in one area of your life to realize that you actually want to put a lot more emphasis on something else. And I want to design a program that's going to catch you wherever you are. Whether that be, I'm someone who knows exactly what I want and I've dreamed of this my entire life and I need to just finally like commit and do it. And I really want to and feel strongly about that. Or whether you're someone who's like, I follow through on everything. I've been doing too much for too many people. I'm not good at setting the boundaries that way, but I don't know exactly what I want because I haven't been paying attention to myself. Or somewhere in between where it's like, I kind of know what I want. I don't know how to get there. And there's no book telling me what to do because I don't want something that's very clear that has an exact defined path. Because look, I work with women who have had a level of success. They've had some successes in their life. They're competent. A lot of them are hard workers, really hard workers and dedicated. But where they are in their life, it's not a question of just trying harder or doing more. Especially when you throw in like responsibilities, kids, or taking care of parents and stuff, like they don't have more. It's about making it different so it suits them, so it fits them, so that they feel alive. And I really want to say one thing as well. I was just talking to somebody who's starting the program and book your calls, people. Book those calls I'm giving you. And what was really interesting is this woman was struggling with burnout, like even medically diagnosed, and she was kind of saying, okay, yeah, fine, I'm trying to respect that, so I'm just trying to figure out how am I going to get everything done, and that's my problem. How do I get this pile? And it's like, well, and she was just trying to motivate herself to psych herself up to go right back into like hustle to more burnout. And this woman's had a lot of success, and like that's worked for her in the past. But it's not going to anymore. And that's what we're figuring out. It's like, yeah, that worked, that was great. But now it's about doing something different. And you might not know what that is. And that's what we're figuring out in Kickstartology. And sorry, I missed the point of why I was telling you that. I got distracted by my own talking. She was talking about hustle. ADD moment. She's talking about hustle. And hustle is not about how much work you do. You can work hard and do a lot of work without it being hustle. Hustle is what happens when we're doing a lot of work, working hard, but we're also doing it from a place of, I have to, or I'm fucked. Everything's going to blow up if I don't do it. I need to, I have to. And that internal pressure and stress and what's everybody going to think if this isn't perfect, and all those thoughts and feelings. Those are where that hustle stress energy come from. And it's exhausting. That's what leads to burnout. If you're wondering how some people seem to like work really hard and they're not exhausted the same way, a huge part of it, like every once in a while there's a unicorn, I need 3 hours of sleep. Yeah, those people are weird. They'll probably die young and that would suck. Like, I'm not wishing that, but like that would suck. But generally, is that they're doing it from a place where they're like, and I want to do these things. I feel alive when I do these things. I love the boundaries I've put in my life because of when I'm working and when I'm doing this. And it feels aligned, doesn't feel hustly. I know if you're exhausted, anybody watching this, and you know, like Valerie, you're sick, maybe you work too hard, but so many of us we get exhausted. And when you come to coaching, sometimes people are just like, oh my God, I just need to like catch my breath. I'm tired. And I want you to catch your breath. I really do. And sometimes when you're feeling that way, what you want to say is, can I just catch up? And then I'll worry about what I want and all that stuff. But for now, can I just get these things done? And if that's how you're operating, you're going to be in hustle because the focus is to get those things done. That's why in Kickstartology, we have the alignment framework. Everything I do is rooted in neuroscience, how the brain works. Part of it is calming down your nervous system, so that you learn how to be like, I'm in hustle mode. This isn't going to work for me. So you're actually going to be more productive when you're not in hustle mode because, well, you're smarter. Remember, high emotion, low intelligence. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to go for it. I'm just going to show you this diagram again because I love it. And for myself, I just actually needed to see it myself this morning to remember, because I had the old cravings to fuck around for an hour because I had this little thing of time I didn't think I was going to have. And I was like, ooh. And then I was like, I use this for like, where do I want to be at the end of the day? And I thought of myself at like 8 o'clock tonight going, but I'm not in the mood to do that thing now that I was supposed to do. And I was like, oh, let's become that person. And just a reminder, excitement is fleeting. And we're just going to do this test again. What is more powerful than excitement? In the chat or out loud.
Conviction.
Yes, Dorothy wins the medal today. Although it might have been the same time as Jen McGeary, but I'm giving it to Dorothy because Jen, I'll give you another award. Okay. I'm seeing you later possibly as well. So you've got lots of time for awards. But imagine if we did the Reset Lab award ceremony. Okay, that would be amusing to me. Let's stop this. And I'm going to give you a prompt. And I contemplated not doing it this Reset Lab, but then I decided to do it because you're going to find stuff. I want you right now, grab something to write with if you don't have it in front of you. And be as specific as possible. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to just write down everything that comes to mind when I ask the question, well, why don't you already have everything you want? Amen, you too. Just because you help us with admin doesn't mean you don't get coached all the time. Why don't you already have everything you want? I'm just going to grab something. I'll be right back. Okay. Teresa's having a dance party.
I don't need 2 minutes to know what
If
what
you
the
wrote
issues
something
are.
simple though, like me, I want you to go a little bit more, a little deeper.
There's stuff.
Okay. Okay.
There's stuff. I just know what the stuff right now.
Okay.
Thanks you.
Okay. How was that? Hard, easy, middle? Now I want you to look at everything you wrote down. And the first thing I want you to look for, is there anything in there that is out of your control? Yeah, Teresa?
Basically the ADD thing and like not being diagnosed at a younger age. Other than the rest of that, the rest of it is stuff I can control.
Okay. What have some people with undiagnosed ADD accomplish those things? Like, is that, do you think it's, or what is it from the ADD specifically?
Like not knowing how to organize and stuff, like to get it going on my own, because so many times I'm like, I have this great idea, I don't know how. I thought that, I had these beliefs that other people in the world know how to do things, which I know now is not true. People just do stuff and figure it out along the way. But I didn't understand that my limitations were different from other people's, and that my gifts were not other people's in that way, that my brain functioned differently.
Okay, so what, based on that, would you say that you didn't figure out how to apply your way of thinking to create the results you want? Would that be more accurate?
Yes, that's
Okay.
about it.
Yeah, I want you to think about it that way because ADD is so big and it's different for everyone. And it's still, even though your thing, it's ADD related, the issues, everybody's gonna have similar things different to themselves, right? So I really like, yeah, that's sort of what I want to say. And yeah, very relatable.
But I fully own
Conviction.
the rest of
Oh,
it.
Jen, interesting. Tell me about that. Oh, or is that you're answering the question? I thought that was what was in the way. Okay. What was there anything that came up for people other than that, that's stuff that's not in their control?
Others
Others. Okay. How did others get in your
That-
way?
others that hold you back, right? Those that say that don't have belief in you, that don't agree with the plans, approach, strategy, goals, and they're constantly fighting you as you're trying to, achieve them. They're like, nope, disagree, shut it down. So those that hold you back, that holds you back.
Okay.
Now, bigger picture, just like a skunk, you don't go and tackle with the skunk, just, change your situation. So in that regard, it's in your control. Go
Yeah.
away from the skunks, but at the same time, if you're committed to making something happen and you happen to be dealing with people that really, have differing opinions, right? And really wholeheartedly believe that their opinion, what they believe is different than yours, and they are in that position of power, it's very demoralizing.
Mhm. Okay. There's like anybody who knows me knows that right now there are probably 20 things I want to coach on in that statement, but I'm going to practice restraint. And I love that you brought up the skunk example because that's huge. That is a thing. And a huge part of it is making decisions based on like what hills do we want to die on, what do we want big picture, and we're going to get into that. But one thing I just want to start with is there's others saying, having power to make decisions you don't agree with, or deciding not to like your way of doing things. And then there's like the belief in you, which I'm going to say, we don't really know what other people think, right? We know the decisions they make, they may even say that, but the belief in you, I want you to focus on your belief in you. That's the number one belief in you. And yeah, okay, we're going to go some places that are going to be great. I'm glad. Thanks for sharing that, Dorothy. And by the way, can I just say, we're talking about the stuff we can't control today. Do you know how inconvenient it is that we can't control other people? It's really annoying. And that's probably one of the things that comes up for everyone at some point during the program, just that frustration that we can't control other people. So now what? And the fact that we can't control other people, getting really good and not letting those people, the ones who don't believe in us possibly, or the ones who are not impacting us in a way that helps, how to get better and better at managing our mind. So we're like, interesting. Here's where we're going, even when they've got technical, like the power to make decisions. But yeah, hard relate, absolutely. And Teresa, yeah, I'm learning the negative beliefs we've had growing up. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Next question. What do you need to do to get everything you want? Okay, but Sharon, you did that a while ago. We're looking at your forward life, right? Okay, go for that. And I needed to do that at one point as well. I did it. Shiny new life. Decide. Okay, more details, Jen, bring it. Ask for help. Oh, nice to see that in yourself. That can be a tough one to admit or to catch, because it usually comes with the, no, I should just be able to do everything on my own. Yeah. Rebalance work and life. Yeah, okay. Ask for help. Just go get it. Decide. What do you need to learn how to do? Some of you answered this a little bit. What do you need to learn? And it's okay if you don't know this, how to do in order to do the thing you just said. Like, Jen, McGooey, what would you have to do to decide? What would you have to learn to do to decide and have that change everything? Because a decision, you can make a decision right this very second. So what else is there that needs to happen?
Yeah, I think it was more, I was trying to get at like you were talking about yesterday, but like the conviction, like it's like you were
Right.
like sort of like the mindset of like, I'm going to do this and thinking through, like I just wrote too, like thinking through the consequences of like certain choices. Because I think one thing is like, I often don't think through the consequence of a choice before making it. Like I'm actually, maybe that's the impulsivity or whatever, but it's like, like you commit to something without, or like an example is like, you decide to sit on I decide to sit on like a new committee or something, but it's like, I don't always think through like, what's the time commitment for that? And what else is that taking away from, right? Like, like I haven't thought through like, well, that's going to be X number of hours per week or per month. And then where does that fit in the whole thing? I just tend to like overcommit and then be like, well, then I never have time. But it's like, but I made all those choices myself. Like,
Yeah, totally.
Through.
Love that. Love that. Hannah, learn to believe that fear won't kill me, failure won't kill me, awkward feelings won't kill me. That's so good, Hannah. That's, yeah, so specific too. Dorothy, spend your time on the things whoa, my thing just moved while I was reading. I was liking it, on the things you want and less on the things that are lower in priority. Yeah. And that sounds awesome. So how do you get the skills to make sure you do that when, work starts to call and you get the stress and all that? Oh, you're good at asking, Michelle, but who to ask? Okay. Interesting. I think you have a call booked. I can't wait till we chat. Adjust some thoughts, habits, behaviors that are not aligned with where I'm going. And what do you need to do to adjust them, Nadine? What skills do you need to build for that?
I think it's that conviction and commitment piece, but like also assessing, like to Jen's point, like what am I saying yes to? It's always my thing. What am I saying yes to that's slowing me down?
Yeah.
It might be like hitting snooze.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking of different metaphors and how to explain this, and something came up, and like, okay, let's get really blunt. I don't want to get into body shit and all of that, but it's a really clean example because everyone understands it. Let's say everything I wanted was J-Lo's abs. Right? Let's just pretend. I'm like, she's 50, I'm 50. I can have those abs. Sure, let's pretend, okay? Well, it would be really tempted to write down, like, it would be really easy to write down everything I need to do. It'd be really easy to, like, I'm gonna have to work out a lot more with some muscles I don't even know are there. My eating definitely gonna have to change. I know a whole lot of things eating wise that are gonna have to change. I'm probably gonna want to change my outfits because if I have those abs, like everyone's gonna see them on every Zoom call, basically. Sorry, guys. No, I'm joking, but you know, like I know all sorts of things that would be on my list of things to do to get JLo's abs. And you know what? Like prioritizing what's most important to get JLo's abs, I could probably do that really fast. Number one, change my eating. Eat more vegetables, eat less crap. So easy to know what to do in a lot of instances. Work-life balance, because I just need to have downtime too. But the thing is, if I suddenly really decided I wanted JLo's abs, what to prioritize, how to do it, that's not actually the problem. The problem's going to be on the following through, on making the decisions in the moment. On, I think to do that type of body, you have to like go to bed at a reasonable time all the time. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff, right? That does not work with my lifestyle. I'm sorry, if I do stand-up comedy, I'm going to have to be home by like 8 p.m. for bedtime, tea and bedtime. So yeah, right? There's all these clashes with my life as it is that are going to come up if I suddenly say, JLo's abs. Be like, oh, that dinner invite to that place? No, I don't eat at those places. I don't eat with friends and do that anymore because I'm home at 8 working out and going to bed. Also, sometimes I want to eat sugar. I love it. And it's going to be hard to not, and I'm going to struggle with that. It doesn't fit in with my current life. Those are actually, so the skills of how to fit this in with my life as it is. What's going to have to change in my life? The fact that I'm going to have all these feelings where I'm like, but I don't want to do this. And doing it anyway. All of those things are where it's going to get messy. And because, let's be honest, most of us know there's a whole lot of stuff we know, well, here are all the 20 things I could do. Like even Michelle, like who to ask for help? We'll start asking to figure it out. Right? Like everybody on this call could come up with 10 things that they could do towards what they want. That's easy. It's the following through part. And really what it boils down to is, how do you get more connected? And Dorothy, you said something really helpful for this, to what you want in the long term more than what you want in the moment is the first one. Because in the moment, I'm going to want to do my normal lifestyle. I'm not going to want to eat the green things and go do another fucking ab workout because it's boring. So how can I connect to, okay, no, I want those abs more than I want to not do those ab exercises. Second, I'm going to have those feelings of I'm craving the cookie. Everybody, if you've been coached by, like, you know, I love cookies. It's my thing. Okay. I love cookies, chocolate chip chewy. If anyone's making, and, you know, if anyone wants to make me cookies, just putting that out there. I'm going to have the feeling of I'm craving cookies, a cookie. Let's say it comes there because my boyfriend's mother makes the best ones. Let's say she's like, Stephanie, cookies. I'm going to have to process the emotion of the craving and saying no to it. I'm going to have to process, because I think if you have abs like that, you have to wait, you wake up at 5 in the morning to do more ab workouts. I'm going to have to process the, I don't want to get up and do this right now. And that's a feeling, and just be like, interesting. Look at that resistance. Going to do it. I'm going to have to do boring things and just be like, this is boring and I'm going to go for it. I'm willing to do that. And I'm going to have to build the beliefs I need that I don't have yet. The belief being the conviction, I'm going to do this, the self-image, like I'm Stephanie J. Marshall and I have JLo's abs. It probably is because there's a J in there. And those are the things that as I build those and start processing those emotions and all of that, and I keep connecting to what I want. And Jen, you were onto something when you said decide. It's like, yeah, but how do you keep deciding? Again and again. And also I'm going to fall off course. And I'm a recovering perfectionist fantasy person. And in the past, if I'd fall off course, I'd be like, well, I guess I may as well wait till Monday, because starting on a Wednesday would be like lunacy. But I've got to learn to be like, look, I wasn't perfect. That's okay. I'm going to keep going. Those are the skills that we need to build. And then the most important one, well, it's tied into what I've already said. And this is like Dorothy with the skunk. You can just not tangle with the skunk, right? So if my big picture thing is all I can think of is J-Lo's abs, there are going to be certain situations, like maybe I hire a trainer and I really don't like that trainer. It's like, this way isn't working for me. Let me figure out the way that works for me. Maybe, like there are 20 different ways of doing these things. But you want to keep your eye on that big picture. What is it you really want? Because if arguing with some jerk who doesn't believe in you, like nobody has that in their vision. I'd really like a situation where I'm surrounded by like people who don't believe in me and make my life really hard, right? So when you're in that, you're like, interesting, this is an obstacle to the life I want. Okay, and it can really suck. But it's like, how are you going to get there? And sometimes you might say, oh, I'm going to pivot and go a bit to this side or to that side. But it's about constantly deciding with intention. And talked about some laws of alignment. Share one with you right now. Sometimes you need to zoom out and sometimes you need to zoom in. And a lot of the times when we're stuck in the weeds with the stuff that we feel like we can't control, because you can't control other people. And some people are dicks. I mean, from a coach perspective, we're all special and different and whatever. But like you can have the experience of being like, you're a jerk. I don't like this. Different opinions. You can have all sorts of things come up. Sometimes you've got really good plans and a global pandemic happens. Think of all the people opening restaurants in January 2020. The pandemic was not in their plans and it messed them up. I kind of had to go like, okay, well, long-term, where do I want to be? When you get stuck in the weeds, it's really easy to lose sight of what you want big picture. And then it's hard to like feel connected to it. And when you're not feeling connected to what you want long-term, you're going to just go with what you feel in the moment. And that's where if you've built the habit of saying yes at work and not having those boundaries, and somebody says, hey, I need you to take care of this over the weekend. If you haven't built the skills yet, and if you're not focused on that big picture and you don't know how to process emotions, you're going to get all stressed out. And you're going to be like, but if I don't do it, it's going to feel really stressful all weekend. And it's going to be worse than if I just did it. And then you're going to do it. And maybe you'll be mad about it. So you'll procrastinate all weekend. So you're going to ruin your entire weekend because you're mad about doing it. You'll do it at the end of the weekend because you do always follow through for other people's needs, maybe not your own. You'll do it for them. You're going to be exhausted, but you were in the weeds about this little thing and you're not processing emotions. When you're focused on the big picture and you're like, oh, right, I'm committed to having room in my life for myself. When that feeling of, oh, I'm going to be stressed if I don't do it comes up, it's easier to go, I've got to learn how to process these emotions and make this work for me. And not keep giving into, because believe it or not, you have a craving to do the work. I know that sounds weird, but it's like craving a cookie. Like Sharon, you were saying to me, like people keep throwing their problems at you. You're like, let me fix that for you. And then you're like, but I didn't want, I wanted the time off, and you get resentful and frustrated, right? But it becomes like craving a cookie. Teresa, you love taking care of other people and like, you're so good at it too. And sometimes you're like, let me fix this for you. And I want to help. And it becomes like craving a cookie, the same thing. Even though sometimes you don't even want to do the thing, but it's like become your normal, and not doing it feels uncomfortable and weird and bad. And there are going to be consequences. And if you just stay zoomed in, you're going to be focused on just making that feeling go away of discomfort. But I want you to think beyond that. And that's why that's setting the GPS. What do you want your life to look like 5 years from now? It matters. And I love you creative types who are like, "Ooh, 5 years from now, let me picture this. This is the most fun thing." But the really practical people, the ones who are like, no, can I get the exact plan with the steps? It's frustrating to you because you're like, I just need to get this stuff done and then I can think about that. But when you're all zoomed in, that's why it's so much harder for you to then manage your feelings and do all that, because you're losing sight of why. That's what you need to work on. And you're going to miss the shortcuts too. Because, you know, when we set the GPS and we've got a thing, it kind of goes like, like alternate route found. Or shortcut discovered. But when you're stressed out in the weeds, that lower intelligence, because high emotion, narrow peripheral vision, you're not seeing the shortcuts. And you're going to get into hustle mode. And those are the skills you need to break to get there. Now, those of you who are all zoomed out and like, woohoo, I can't wait to have this 10 years from now. Here's my fantasy life. And you're like, yeah, that's happening later. Right now, I don't need to worry about it. I'm just doing this. Right? Some of you who do need maybe a little work on in the weeds and in the details. You're like, I'll do this stuff now because this is fun. Who have the belief in the someday, which, I mean, I love that. There's an optimistic thing that's going to be used to your advantage in different ways. But it's important that you recognize what's impractical about that. What isn't working? Because either way, if you're like staying zoomed out all the time and kind of in denial in the weeds and just whatever, but you're like, yeah, someday, it's going to get in your way as much as if you're just like in the weeds and just trying to get to the next step and not taking that room for yourself. Any questions about that? Hold on. Part of the craving to get the appreciation reward. Yeah, job well done. Exactly, Dorothy. So I'm just going to read this out loud because anyone watching you won't hear. Part of the craving is to get the appreciation reward. Also a job well done. Sometimes this is what you want, but often it's missing the context of the bigger picture, which means you didn't spend your time on what is important to you. Yeah. Yeah. So how do you learn to value your appreciation of yourself? Right? Like, how do you get to be like, yes, me sticking to what I want? That feels so good. Yeah. And a job well done. If you're doing it, those of you who do this a lot at work, you're already good at work. We know this. What about doing a really good job on sticking to your boundaries? That's a really good job. And that's harder for some of you. Some of you are better at working all the time than fucking around. Don't you wish we could trade those skills? Wouldn't it be so great? I'd love that. Yeah. Okay. What else is in here? What's my alternate job choice?
Alexa, your voice was very good when you were saying, turn right here.
Thanks for telling me.
Oh, crap. Alexa just responded.
She did. Well, that was creepy. Okay. I used to be like that. I promise that habit of falling off severely gets so much better with self-compassion. Yeah. Yeah. We allow these naysayers into our lives as a way of self-sabotaging our efforts. Yeah. Yeah. Carolyn, you know, I'd love for you to speak to that a little bit, Carolyn, because I also know at one point you were in a situation in a job that you fucking hated with a bunch of imbeciles. But at the same time, you were pissed off that they weren't recognizing that you're like really smart and good at things.
Yeah. And I was actually reading my journal. I keep a daily journal, and I was reading my journal from when I got my current role. And I actually wrote that down. And I said that how my conclusion was, how could I expect people like that to ever see my worth? And the fact that they couldn't just showed that we weren't aligned and our values weren't aligned, and that moving into a role where they did see it was like a freeing feeling, because it wasn't me. It wasn't like I was doing anything wrong. I just worked for these like pieces of shit that there's no way they would have seen my worth. But I beat myself up over it for like 5 years, trying to get them to, it's like trying to like date a guy who doesn't value you, and you keep trying to do things to like woo them or win them over, or get them to appreciate you, when really like they want to date the girl they're working with who's a bimbo. I'm just speaking from like generalizations here, but yeah, that's, and it was so interesting too that it took me that long to come to that conclusion. But it is, I don't know if it's like a woman thing or a stubborn thing, that I don't like to give up. So I felt like I had to get this, I had to get them to see my worth. And so it was almost like an obsession to get them to see it, when all I needed to do was let go and accept that they wouldn't. And that kind of goes back to the discussion about those naysayers in your life too, that chances are those people are never going to believe in you, and they're never going to think what you're doing is good or anything like that. And it's really hard when someone has such a major role in your life, like your employer, the people you work with, you see them 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, people you live with, maybe it's your parents, your partner, your kid or whatever, they're in your life so much. It's so hard to let go and step back and say, you know what, like you do your thing, I'm going to do mine, because your opinion, when you know what you're doing is good and you believe in it, like what's that saying? Oh, nobody can make you feel inferior without your permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's one of the skills a lot of us need to master, or even start getting better at. You don't need to master it to move forward, but very often that's the skill that's going to help you make the decisions to change your life. Like once you really let go of going, wow, these people aren't seeing this. What do I want? And it brings you back. What do I want? I want to be surrounded by people who value this. That's zooming out that little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend that's going through it right now. She grew up in a very conservative community, very religious, very well off, and that's not the life she wants to lead anymore. And she was just telling me yesterday that she really needs to learn to let go of all that learning her family and her community put on her, so that she can follow her path, because she knows it's true for her.
Yeah. Eamon, I think you can relate to that a little bit. Yeah.
That's why I was smiling. Like it looked like my story. Because having to have all those things, but realizing that you don't align with all those things that you have, and you want to make your own path. It's difficult, but also like coaching has helped me so much with Steph that I can clearly see that what I want. Before, I was so confused. When I met her 2 years ago, it almost seems like I was in such haphazard, chaotic moments. But definitely, yeah.
And those of you who have heard her story, like, yeah, it was very dramatic, but you've been figuring it out little by little. And it's interesting the way those thoughts can still creep in sometimes, but yeah. And I want to let you know, when you're thinking that way, when you're looking at the other people, what they're thinking and working on those thoughts, one thing that comes up in this program, and very often, it's almost like I have markers about, I know when things happen. And sometimes I'll get a text from someone. I'm like, yeah, it's about to. And people are like, does coaching ever start to impact the rest of your life or other relationships? And it's like, yes, because sometimes the people around you also see you a certain way. And as you grow and evolve, they have trouble seeing that, because they're like, no, you were this way. You're supposed to be this way. And once you start setting your boundaries or following through, it's going to start to feel good. But sometimes the people around you are like, but I like that you did all this stuff for me. And there's just that's just something to keep in mind. But my God, it feels good on the other side. Once you get more comfortable with that. I love it. And yeah, it's true. It's not about what other people do or say. It's how you feel about it that's going to impact you. And one example I like to think is like, you know, if some random person on the street like says like, you're a stupid idiot. And you're like, okay, person I've never met in my entire life. Like, that's nice. And you're going to forget about it because you're not taking any of it to heart. You're like, this isn't a real thing. Those are your thoughts about it. Whereas to certain people, we take it to heart and we're like, but that must be true. And our thought, like we believe it in some sense. So it's very much about learning to say, wow, what am I thinking? And the tool of catching our thoughts, that crazy huge awareness of our thoughts, which is a skill we get really good at in Kickstartology. And it's at first it's like, no, but I want to go into action and do things. But slowing down for that awareness is going to speed up your results. And with that awareness, we then learn how to choose and redirect the thoughts so that we're not working against ourselves. So we're not stewing all weekend, wondering what's going on. You brought up, Carolyn, you were talking about the people not valuing you. Think about dating. Who here has like spent too long once waiting for the phone or the text or something from someone? Oh, are they going to text back? I don't know. I don't know. What are they thinking? Right? It's our thoughts about that that's causing it. Like we can be such drama queens in our head. Or who here's had a thing? I remember one time, I still remember it. This is at like, I was working as a senior project manager in a digital agency. I loathed it. It was like, oh, it was not a fit. And I was told by, and I got one of those on Friday at like 5:30. Let's have a chat in my office at Monday morning, you know, and I knew it wasn't quite a firing, but I knew I was like, it was not going to be a good conversation. I didn't like the job. I was already like looking and stuff and actually wound up being fairly innocuous, but all weekend I felt nauseous and like, and I just like, I think I binged watched stuff because I wanted to get out of my own head because I didn't like the feelings. And if we're trying to escape those feelings, that's when a lot of us do things that it's like, that's when we do the binge watching, binge eating. That's when, you know, the drinking or like, oh, let me just reorganize all of my closets because that to me feels so good. And, you know, like what are you doing to get out of your own head? And we all know wherever I go, there I am. So that's why one of the things we work on the most in the program is managing our feelings. So we can zoom in and zoom out, and we're always going, where do things fit? Am I solid on what I want long-term? What do I know? And what do I not know? Because you don't have to have it all laid out, okay? That's a misconception. Some people are like, I'm not ready for coaching because I don't know exactly what I want. Yeah, some people know exactly what they want, and then it turns out they don't want it. Or 3 weeks into the program, they realize that they actually didn't want what they thought they wanted. Changes all the time. Do you have goals that align with where you are now? If you're someone who loves big picture fantasy stuff, but you don't love getting in the weeds, and your goal is like a 6-month goal, you're probably not going to do anything about it for 5.5 months, and you're not learning how to follow through on yourself. If you're someone who's always saying yes to other people and struggles and wants that validation and to feel is terrified of feeling judged, you're going to want to make sure that the things you're focusing on help you learn those skills. So you want to focus on the right habits and goals, not to just say, I did this, let me unlock that achievement level in life. And so that you're living in alignment with your values, what matters to you, so that you are having more fun. For a while, I was scared when I started coaching. I was questioning it. I was like, do I have to be like all earnest and stuff if I'm coaching? Because it's not really my style, right? Thank God, like, no, I don't have to be. But it's like, what is your self-image? Who are you at your best? And for me, you know what? It turns out stirring the pot a little bit is actually when I'm at my best. And I help others stir the pot in their life a little bit for the greater good of their life in a way that they love. That's not for everybody, but it's also aligned with my self-image of who I am. So I'm like, ooh, what's going on here? I like that sense of play. So what works for you? What really matters? And what skills do you need to develop to get there? Chances are it's not just prioritizing. Chances are it's not that you need to just do all the things to get rid of that pile on your desk. It's more like, what do you need to get more comfortable with? And it's also not about thinking positively when you get the obstacles. You know, when COVID happened, that's the type of obstacle you can't, I love it that nobody actually had obstacles that they couldn't fully control. Well, people, but that's a bigger picture problem. There's a lot of stuff out there in self-help, and it's just like, well, just get really positive with your thinking. And wishing really hard doesn't change things. It doesn't. Right? Belief work is different than that. It's getting into like belief, I'm going to create the results I want. Who is that person who has the skills to navigate what's going on to get there? Totally different. It's not about force or trying harder. We talk about like if you're hiking in the forest and there's a tree in your path, it's an obstacle. Brute force pushing it's not going to get it out of your way. You have to figure out how. So sometimes if you're someone who's always like trying to get into action, it feels like force. It's like you can keep pushing. That's not what's going to change things. You can be really tenacious. But if what you're doing isn't working, like Carolyn trying to be like, no, but look at how smart I am and valuable. Carolyn is really stubborn, you guys. But it wasn't serving her there. She needed to be like, fuck this, I'm out. It's following through for ourselves and figuring out what really matters. And with that, I've got the two questions that I really want to bring to you today. Okay? Consider what you want. And it's okay if you're like, but you know what, I'm not really set on my goal or something like that. That's okay. Think generally what you want in your life. Like nobody I know wants to be like, oh, I want to not take care of myself and be tired and bored and alone, right? So like go even generally, think of what you want and what's not working for you today. What are you willing to give to get these results? Are you willing to learn how to process those feelings of like the craving? I know I keep saying I want boundaries, but I just want to get this thing done so I can relax. Are you willing to start learning how to navigate the feelings involved in that? Because you can't solve it just by doing things differently and reorganizing. On paper you can, but in real life, you're already working hard, okay? I know this. Don't try and bullshit yourself. If you haven't figured it out till now, the doing more thing, that's not it. Are you willing to do hard things, uncomfortable things? Have conversations with people where you're like, I might feel really stupid. I might look really stupid. Are you willing to go for things where you might fail along the way? And learn and go, wow, I failed because I didn't know how to do this yet. Okay, I'm willing to learn how to do this. Success is never a straight line, right? And it's pretty much never linear. It's about accepting the ups and downs. So what are you willing to give? And what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to give of yourself to achieve this? We spend a lot of time going like, what do I want to get? What do I want to get out of life? Yeah, what are you willing to give to get that life? The bigger the dreams, the more you're going to have to give. If you're tied to it emotionally, it gets a lot easier. And your life, you know, that whole thing we talked about on day, I forget what, how it's like, but I just want to keep everything exactly the same, but change everything. That's where the questions are. You can't make time. I wish we would get rid of that expression. And people sometimes try and go, fine, I will organize my life like a Tetris board with no blanks. Schedule 7-minute rest. And then they get tired, burnt out, and they stop doing stuff, and then they're mad at themselves because they're not a robot. So what are you willing to give? Question 2, are you willing to fail are you willing to fail along the way? Are you willing to deal with uncertainty? The messiness of, I don't really know exactly how this is going to go. I'm going to try it. I have a plan based on what I'm thinking now. I'm going to do this. There is no guarantee, but I know I need to get into action to get more data. Are you willing to fail along the way? Now, tomorrow, I'm going to talk a lot more about the logistics of Kickstartology. And that's it for the coaching part. I'm going to just talk to you for 3 minutes now, and we're going to talk more tomorrow. But Kickstartology, it's about getting the fuck out of your own way. And as you saw today, yeah, things come up we can't control. Might change our dates of when we want something. It might change. Sometimes you might be like, you know what, I thought I wanted this, but these things are out of my control. I'm actually going to pivot this way. We get to make decisions around that. And part of Kickstartology is getting rid of the drama around that, the mind drama, because that's where the hustle and the burnout, the exhaustion, and the hopelessness come in to feel alive. Now, if you've been kind of thinking low key about the program, I just want to let you know, if you're feeling nervous or scared or like, nah, that's perfect. It's exactly right. That's how most people do feel. And it's more about what decisions do you want to make? And when I look at this, a lot of like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So when people are like, okay, like I've been thinking I want to change this, but everything needs to be exactly perfect. I need to know exactly every single step of the way and have that guaranteed outcome. Well, you're not really going to do a lot of things because it's never going to be the right time. And when people are thinking that way, sometimes somebody gave me this metaphor recently. They think about coaching and they think of investing in themselves. And because there is some unknown if you've never done it. It's a process where there are some unknowns because you're figuring out for yourself. And they're like, it feels like a gamble. And they're kind of like, well, how much money would I be willing to like set on fire? Because who knows what's going to happen. And it's kind of normal to think that because most people aren't like, great. And I've been saving here in case one day I want to do coaching and I've got extra time and extra money, just tucked away in case one day. But I want you to think of it as a product on a shelf. Do I want to change the habits and patterns that are holding me back? Do I want to use these tools that are sitting on a shelf in a product because I know these tools are getting my way and I want to find out what happens when I'm not doing these things? That's where it gets interesting. So let's have a conversation. And just a few things for you now, because this is just for those of you in Reset Lab. We're actually changing some stuff up in Kickstartology, and it's not just like join anytime. We're having open and closed registration application. Applications are now open till March 16th. Those of you in Reset Lab, if you decide to join, there are some payment plan options that are not going to be available to the people who are not in Reset Lab. And one of the things I love seeing in the program is very often people sign up. I was thinking about this last night and I'm like, this happens so much, it's worth talking about. They decide to commit, they're going for it, and they start making changes before they've even started the program because they've already gotten a taste and they're like, but I could do this and this, and they start exploring and all that. And we're starting March 20th with the next round, but the people joining in Reset Lab, I'm going to give you early access to some things because I just want you to capitalize on that. Like, let's get some quick results right away. It's more fun to do that. So book your call. We're going to do some coaching. If you want to find out more about the program, I will tell you on that call all the details. I'm going to be talking more about the logistics, the details, what you can expect tomorrow. Just know that if there's a part of you that's feeling like nervous or like that feeling, the butterflies, like that's good. Especially if you haven't felt that in a while in your life, like done scary shit, it like feels really good. Okay, look forward to it. Thanks for coming today. I will see you tomorrow for day 5 of Reset Lab. And those of you in the program, I'll see you on the other Zoom now.